to share something with you. That might put me in a very negative light, yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife or something completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from here, and this has been like a therapy session.
This is Umar Ahmed for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. I'm joined by Gareth A. Davies. It was a shame you weren't over in Dubai, Gareth. Why weren't you there?
Because I think I'd had enough of it after the press conference at Bethnal Green. No, I just worked the press conference with Andy Shepherd and then wasn't doing the event itself. But obviously there was a lot of clickbait going on. I noticed the scraps in the street, the water being thrown, John Fury's shirt coming off in the ring, Tommy after victory, obviously not making weight and calling Jake Paul into the ring. He had a little bit of terror in his eyes, didn't he?
Well,
old Jake Paul.
Well, let's talk about firstly Tommy Fury and Paul Bamba, which didn't happen. You said there that Tommy didn't make weight. According to him, in his contract, he did make weight. What do you make of the fact there was two different contracts?
Yeah, that was obviously a cock up on the promotional side because why would he be lying about it? They kept him on the bill, and whatever it was, he'd had to make the weight 24 hours earlier or something. Mm-hmm. Was that right? Yeah, poor old Paul Bamba, really. Because they'd squared off and it looked quite interesting and all of that, and it is what it is. This thing with YouTubers and Mayweather and the crossover. It's a very grey area on this card with some boxers and some YouTubers, and it's the grey area that we don't really know about yet, and a lot of us are a little bit tentative about, because where does the celebrity YouTube white collar boxing end, and where does the boxing actually begin, true boxing? And there's a bit of a spectrum there at the moment, I think. What about Tommy Fury? Well, he needs to make his mind up whether he's a real boxer or he's going to have these kind of exhibition bouts, really, and be involved in that group and fight Jake Paul. I mean, it's certainly set up for that now, isn't it?
But surely that's a fight even hardcore fans are going to have a slight interest in anyways, Tommy Fury and Jake Paul, because it's been going on for such a long time now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big rubbernecking car crash collision. That's what it is. Jake Paul has a huge draw. Tommy Fury has a huge draw. Put them together, and it's a massive fight. Unless Mayweather decides to have an exhibition against Jake Paul, because that's possible as well. But it's still a big fight in terms of what numbers and eyeballs it'll draw to it. Tommy Fury against Jake Paul. I think it's going to happen because there's money in it, no question. And it's it's not a surprise that Jake Paul's out there. It's just a surprise he wasn't prepared to step into the ring afterwards. I don't think I would if I was Jake Paul.
Well, Jake Paul did address the situation with Tommy Fury, and he put a post out to Frank Warren saying that you guys have 7 days as of yesterday to get this deal over the line. Do you believe it happens?
Well, they're used to people setting deadlines, aren't they, at Queensbury? Their main star likes to set a deadline. Do I think it happens? Maybe not at the moment, but if they do get it over the line, great. They got bigger fish to fry right now in terms of, well, I mean, it's still a fight that sells, so if they can get it over the line, great. But they jumping onto another subject, they need to sort out Fury and Usyk at the moment. That's the key, frankly, and not really wait till after December the 3rd, in my view, when Fury's out against Chisora. I hope that doesn't get pulled, but it might be. I'm not suggesting it is going to be pulled, by the way, but that situation with the IBF and Filip Hrgović and Alexander Usyk may well hasten that fight being organised in the Middle East. They need to get it organised anyway, Umar, because by December the 3rd, we want to know what's going on, because they'll have Christmas and they're going to camp, won't they?
All right, let's jump onto that then. So co-promoters of Filip Hrgović, Kalle Sauerland and Eddie Hearn both put out statements saying that the IBF are going to proceed with immediate purse bids for Usyk and Hrgovic. What's your understanding of what the IBF are going to do with Filip Hrgovic? Is that the case?
Well, I mean, look, they've got their rules and they've set their rules, and Usyk needs to make a defence. I think it's 90 days, isn't it? So they're pushing through with that. No surprise that Kalle Sauerland and Eddie Hearn are jumping on. If they can get in the way of that, because they don't make any money out of Fury and Usyk fighting, no surprise that they're jumping into the camp there and trying to rattle the cage, if you like. Bottom line, really, is if Usyk doesn't want to fight Hrgovic and he'd much rather fight Fury, we know who the number 1 and the number 2 in the world are, and it's Fury and Usyk right now. So, stroke Wilder. So, they just get the fight done. Even if they haven't got the IBF belt, if they haven't got any belts, that doesn't actually matter. Let's get that fight on, then we know who the number 1 is. The belts are in the way of this in some ways. And I think, obviously, if the fight's signed, and it may not be till December the 3rd or after December the 3rd, then, or it might be behind the scenes and then they announce it on the Monday or the Tuesday, the 5th or the 6th. All well and good. But, saying the news out there that Joshua's going to be fighting for a world title soon as well, needs to win a fight. Have you seen that about Joshua could be in the mix as well, and needs to win a fight first, and he's not going to fight till next year. I cannot imagine that Usyk wants to fight Filip Hrgovic rather than Tyson Fury. It's a huge money fight. We know the Middle East are interested, or they were at least a few weeks ago. We know it's scheduled for late February, early March, and that's what they're talking about. So we just have to see how this plays out over the next couple of weeks. But of course, the undisputed would trump the mandatory anyway. If they said, no, the fight's signed, if both camps come out and say, no, we're signed and it's going ahead, that would trump the mandatory.
Yeah, I mean, that is my understanding as well, that undisputed fights and, unifications always trump mandatories. But we know the IBF are very strict, Gareth. So do you think it might be different with them?
It might be, but people have dropped belts before to go ahead and have a fight. As I said, the IBF title on the line would be great, but it doesn't need to be on the line because we all know that it's for the undisputed title or the lineal title. We know. So I think the IBF are missing out by pushing this. I think obviously what they've had to do is wait. What would it be? It'd be 8 months with the title not being defended, wouldn't it? So because Joshua, he wasn't the mandatory in that second fight, in that sequel. And there was a year between, if you think about it, almost a year in between. So there's been no chance for their mandatory for a long time. And a lot of us thought Filip Hrgovic lost to the big Chinese lummox out there on that night as the co-main event. But, I think Filip Hrgovic and Usyk is an interesting fight. But I think Usyk wins that as well.
If Usyk does drop the belt, I think we both know that Tyson won't really care. He's had his previous issues with the IBF straight after the Klitschko fight. So
yeah, 16 days. He only held it for 16 days afterwards. I think that was because they hadn't applied, by the way, at the time, to keep the belt. If you look back in history, obviously it's 7 years ago. But yeah, it was. He's always felt hard done by the IBF, hasn't he, over that? And he talks quite openly and outwardly about that. But they were pretty stringent on him at the time. And, we know what happened next. Didn't take long for young Anthony Joshua to win it from Charles Martin, if you recall.
Yeah, so he's probably not going to be overly bothered if the IBF belt isn't on the line. So the ball's in Usyk's court. If you were Alexander Usyk, would you bin the IBF belt? I'm
not sure I'd bin it. I would negotiate with them and say, look, this fight's being made. Can we have an extension? But if there's no movement from the IBF, I think he bins it and he fights Fury. Because it's a massive fight for him. It's a legacy-defining fight for him. And should he beat Fury, and he's not the favourite, of course, it's a massive, massive moment for him. He gains legendary status by doing that. Okay, and just lastly, to close off,
Saw a post from Lawrence Okolie on Instagram yesterday, and the situation with Okolie and Matchroom and his management 258's been going on for a while. He hasn't said anything actually in terms of interviews and stuff, but he's on his social media. He's been, quietly talking about it for a while now. What is your understanding about what is going on with Lawrence Okolie and his promotional contract with Matchroom?
Well, I think it's a nasty divorce with Eddie Hearn. They're saying, I believe it's down to how many fights left on his contract. I think he believes he's out of the contract. I think they believe there's still a fight or whatever it is on the contract. I think Matchroom are claiming they will lose money if he leaves, and they've invested a lot in him, but he's not happy with it, and he wants to get out and he wants to do his own thing. This has been going on since about May. I mean, there's been hints, hasn't there, on social media. They've definitely fallen out. And Lawrence is kind of, he's putting out there that he feels like he's on a, I don't want to say a slave contract because that's not right, but it's that feeling of, and I don't mean slave in the true sense of the word. As a boxer, he feels a bit pinned down by what they want at the moment. He's not happy with 258 management, I don't think. And I just think he wants to go his own way, and he's reached that level where he wants to push on himself. It's a very unfortunate situation because, they were great buddies, weren't they? He and 258 and Joshua, and I just think he's unhappy with everyone that's managing him because he hasn't had what he wanted. And, he's a guy that wants to unify or make undisputed the cruiserweight division and then move on up. And as he's saying, 3 weights in his post obviously means Bridger and heavyweight. He's definitely big enough to fight at heavyweight. Once all these giant heavyweights are gone, he's got a chance. He's very hard to hit. And he's got a very big punch that probably will carry up to heavyweight. It's always unfortunate. It always comes down to money, why promoters and boxers split. And this is no different to tons of situations in the past. And I just think he feels hard done by.
From the outside looking in, of course, Eddie's delivered him a world title shot, which Lawrence then bagged in the ring. He's bought him a Rolex. So, as I said, from the outside looking in, it looks like that partnership with Lawrence and Eddie was very good and everything was going well. So, I know you talk about money is what's happened here. Do you have any more understanding about what's actually gone on between Okolie and Matchroom?
Well, look, fuck a Rolex, yeah? That doesn't mean anything. Fuck a Rolex. It's all about a route map to legacy-defining wealth in the future. Eddie Hearn doesn't fight for him. Lawrence Okolie puts his brain and his body on the line. So it's what's in the interest of him that counts. He's the warrior. Eddie Hearn can just move on to his next fighter. And he's got many, hasn't he? He's got a huge stable. I don't think I can reveal all the things that I know right now because I spoke to Lawrence in confidence, and he hasn't kind of said, let's do an interview and publish. He just reached out to me and said, I'm not happy with the situation I'm in. I want you to know the situation I'm in. And I think I've revealed as much as I can without spoiling anything for both sides. But I do think they are in a legal case together, and he's not happy about it, and he's very frustrated. It probably will be resolved in court over an agreement. Otherwise, he's going to have to fight with Matchroom, and they're arguing over contracts. That's what they're arguing: contract and where it stands right now. We want Lawrence in action. We want him out in action. Simple as.
No, that's fair enough. That's if you do know and you can't say. I saw Lawrence in Dubai, and we were about to do an interview, but he said legally at the moment it's probably best not for him to do things like that.
That's why I can't say anymore.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why I can't say anymore. I don't want to jeopardize anything for any of the guys, But I am going to be catching up with Eddie Hearn in the next week. Obviously, we've got the Dillian White fight week next week. I've organised to speak to Eddie. I'm trying to talk to him about Conor Benn's situation. He said he doesn't want to talk about that at the moment. There's things going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. It's about time we had all that. I'm on this. I'm not like a dog with a bone, but it's something that hasn't gone away yet, and that we need some kind of resolution and to see where that case has got to anyway, at the very least.
Yeah, and just to point out, Lawrence did say that he is going to come out soon and talk about everything, so he will do that. Anyways, Gareth, appreciate your time and insight to things, and I will see you soon, hopefully, all right?
I'm gonna share something with you that might put me in a very negative light. Yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife or something, completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from it, and this has been like a therapy session.